want to introduce my accompanier, Hannah, will be your company for us today.
Hi, Hannah. Hannah? Hello, Hannah.
So, Highland, I appreciate you coming on to the Cat Chat podcast and making time and work for the scheduling because you were flying 11 times in the next month.
I am. I found myself without a house right now. It's a long story. I have a house, it's being rented out. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on a family tour of all the people I haven't seen in a while and who I love to death. So this is a great time to do that in the midst of Tipline, promotion. Oh, I love the water bottle.
I got the Tyler sticker. I'm a huge fan of Tyler. The sticker from FTT and my fan made sticker.
That's so good. I love that.
Thank you. Let's talk about, before we dive in with it's time for him to come home for Christmas and Tipline Mysteries. I love that movie. Oh my gosh. You did a great job with Chris McNally, the banter. Okay, that's going to be a good movie. And I'm not even like half an hour in. It's going to be a good one.
Wow. How do you say in ASL, how do you say thank you? Because I almost did something that I think was not thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, there's another thing that's similar to that. That's not. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I almost went like, I was like, I don't think that's it. I remember Mr. Holland's Opus is a movie that I love. It's one of my favorite movies. And I remember learning that as a kid. And I was like, wait, thank you. Thank you.
I try to make sure everybody knows thank you and the other one. An old principal of mine at the school that I worked at, I think it was before COVID time, that she was trying to be nice, learning in your diet for that for the whole period kids that are school and the department. So every time I went, oh, it was very nice there. She's like, thank you. Look, for a minute, she goes,
it's too close. It's too close. I'm like, wait.
I'm the chin.
Thank you. Yes. I will not forget it now. This conversation is going to be, yeah.
But okay. Tell us, how did you get involved with Hallmark world? How did you incorporate from Hallmark? Because I've known you things in the world.
Yes, it's a very different world. It's a very different world. It's kind of the good old fashioned, very dry approach that I got a call from my good old manager, who is my lifeline. And Jason said, you've got an offer for Hallmark. Do you want to do it? And I read the script and really liked it. And so I said yes. And it was a very simple moment that actually has had quite the lasting effect on me for the last 2 years. And Tyler, I can't say enough good things about that man. Because it was my first Hallmark, it's such a different shooting world from the filming experience to other types of movies that I had a lot of questions. And that man did not need to answer one of them, but he took me into his trailer. He answered at length any question I had all for that entire month. He was so kind to me, and he didn't need to be, and he was. And so I'm just forever indebted to Tyler. He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah. The Christmas movie, it was time for him to come home for Christmas. It was really good. It was all sorts of emotions and fears. And I feel like going on it like a treasure hunt with you and Tyler trying to figure out. I'm like, I can't hear the music. But it was like, I'm like, is that Tyler's family member or just some storyline? And that when we got to the end, I was like, he's the one, she's the one. Oh, so please talk to me about your journey, your experience working on that film with these wonderful actors, Tyler Hynes, Steve Baccio, I hope I said his name right, and Meghan Gardner.
So that one was that was for Making Waves, right? Yeah, the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just fun because I had come from shooting Christmas in July. So the coats, and it was a heat wave in Vancouver when we shot Time for Him. So to go from that to the following May to being like, oh, dresses, Vancouver Island. It was such a like just different vibe, you know, it was very summery vibe that I then got to match on screen. So for that reason, I loved it. And it was just a very the emotion was much lighter in this movie than Time for Him. Time for Him was a heavier drama. And I you know, I'm biased for both because I loved the producer Orly on Time for Him. And then I loved our Hallmark executive Emily on Making Waves. So it was just, I just felt lucky on both of them. But Making Waves was easy and fun. Like that was the vibe on screen and the vibe off screen. And so the vibe off screen with Time for Him was very fun, but heavier on screen, obviously. So, but Corey was fun because I had never worked with like a long-standing Broadway actor before. So being able to like, again, I'm just poor guy. I'm like questioning him with all, you know, I'm badgering him with all of these questions about Broadway and what was that like to work 10 years on Broadway? Because that's like every actor's dream. And he was kind enough to answer all those questions for me. But it was quite fun because we were shooting on like a beach. You know, we had we got to take like a ferry to like a personal boat to the set, and it was just fun. It was just lovely. Yeah, and we shot with 10-hour Terry, as they call him, on the director. Terry is known for shooting very short days, which I'm sure you've heard about. But Terry is, I just felt, I had heard so much about Terry from Tyler. So then when I got to work with Terry, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. This is crazy. But he's fun.
The very nice guy. I met him briefly at Rama Drama Chicago event
Okay.
when
Yeah.
they did Paper Holiday with Ryan and Pavey and Brooks Day, and of course the blockbuster movie The Three White Men with the three guys, Paul Camper, Tyler Hynes, and Andrew Walker.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I just found out about the three white men, I laughed. I was like, oh boy, here we go again. Just hopefully Luke got there, not Luke the kid, somewhere. Anyway, during that movie, my favorite clip of it was time for him to come home for Christmas. I knew there was a lot of tension between the characters because they were best friends, and I kind of knew that Helen's character would into your character. I was like, oh my God, it gotta be Brian. She was talking about you, not talking about him. And that was a beautiful story. So how to prepare for that kind of role, from like making a way, bubbly, fun, kind, groupie, and all about shift to more serious, a little bit lighthearted, somber.
Yeah. I mean, I come from horror, you know, I come from thriller world. So I'm used to quite heavy material on set. So Time for Him was my first Hallmark. So to me, it was no different. If anything, Making Waves was my like kind of like, wait, that's it? I just gotta show up and smile? What do you mean? Like just have fun? Like what do you mean? You know, I'm used to like more of a drama background than comedy. So or just easygoing rom-com. So that was new for me. I could see why people do rom-coms because they're really just light, even shooting them. At least this one was for me. So Time for Him, I'm not used to much different as far as the majority of my career goes, as far as having a lot to deal with on screen.
Uh, do you have any favorite moment or favorite memory of making those movies, making waves, or time for
Yeah.
him to come home for Christmas? And eventually we will talk about the Tipline Mysteries.
So I would say my favorite, so it's kind of, this is sort of a theme in my life in general, is favorite memories tend to be not what's on screen, but off screen, because this is our life. When we watch a scene back, for me at least, it's like, I always think like there was a particular moment in Teen Wolf where I had to take Feifel to the vet. My dog Feifel to the vet. And it's like when I watch that scene, I just think of that's the day I took Feifel to the vet. It's not having to do when I watch it back. When I'm in the scene, I'm thinking about the scene, but watching it back, it's like that's my life. And so I always think of my life first when I'm watching things back, which is a bit difficult to watch things back. And I'm picking apart the work, and then I'm also thinking about my life. So it's very hard for me to just like enjoy something. But I can also try and separate that and go, okay, is this fun to watch? Do people like to watch? So it's sort of that complex. I'm that person. So my favorite memories, I would say, are just honestly the location, because that's the first couple times I had worked in Canada in general. And so I love cold weather, even though the first one was in July. And there was I worked on another project in the winter in Canada, which is when I really enjoyed it. But we shot Making Waves in May, and it was beautiful weather. I got to go scuba diving with octopuses off the coast of Vancouver Island, and I love scuba diving. So that probably is my favorite memory. It was a wall dive, so it was like my first big wall dive, and it was kind of creepy because like it gives you more perspective of how deep you are, and you're like, blah, like it messes with your head a little bit. You have to like calm yourself down in your regulator in your little world. So it was really fun. And everyone was in a dry suit, and I was not in a dry suit. I was in it's what you call a farmer suit. So I had a 14 mil in the middle, but 7 on my limbs. And that's very cold. You're very like, oh, everyone else is, but you have to be dry suit certified, and I'm not, because I don't do a ton of cold weather diving. And in Canada, it's almost all dry suit diving. So that was a really cool experience. After we got done shooting Making Waves, I got to go scuba diving. So that was really fun.
Yeah, for all these movies, I know you're finding like different locations for all the movies. So on the off days, through time to like to explore or you want to learn about the location and what is the location best for? Because I know sometimes actors on the off days, oh, I heard about this location. A good boom place is over there, or a good place to sightsee is over there. So any place that I know you mentioned about Making Waves, beautiful location, same thing with it's time for him to come home for Christmas.
I would say the biggest thing with time for him was the food. I think Vancouver has such good food. And then we shot Making Waves in Victoria. Although red fish, blue fish, there's a kiosk on the wharf during the summer that that Making Waves had. That was really, really good. So I would say the food, yeah, location's a lot for me, but Vancouver and Victoria are, I just think Canada has, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think Canada, but I'm from LA, so take that into consideration. It's a very dirty city. It's just like they're just so clean and so beautiful. I mean, I know parts of Vancouver are not beautiful, but I think like the mountains being right there. I'm a sailor, I'm a skier, so I like water and mountains. If you can shove those together, and put cold weather involved. I love cold weather. Like it's done for me. So Vancouver has my heart.
Yeah, I went to Canada a long time ago. In my college years, I went to Niagara Falls for the weekend. So remember much of it. I was trying to get out there and be able to explore Canada. I mean, I heard so much about Victoria Island, Vancouver, Toronto. So those are the major places I want to eventually visit.
Yeah. I've actually never been to Niagara Falls. That's on my list. So I'm excited to go to that. Yeah. No, I've never been.
Yeah, definitely, really, really good. I went to the top part. I did actually go on to the boat or get near, but I did get wet from all the waterfalls, but it's really beautiful, really beautiful.
That's fun. I love that.
Okay, your recent movie, Tipline Mysteries, Dial and Murder, based off on the tip line with the Detroit fact. How did that work? I mean, I like crime movies and crime podcasts and YouTube, of course. And I just watched, I was just like, okay, there's so much going on and there's so much tape that what they can do, what they can't do. Again, your movie, Tipline Mysteries, remind me of a bunch of Hallmark mystery movies that have non-detective person and a detective person and they team up together. So talk to me about Tipline Mysteries and your experience with Chris McNally and how it works. Because I know it was based on a true story and a true situation within the Detroit press.
Right, right. I liked that it was based on a real place. That they then took like even some of the props in the tip line room were stories from the Detroit Free Press. And so I just loved, as far as Maddie goes, my character, that she's just this like kind of scrappy girl trying to make it all work and having to make money, but then follow her passion. And the fact that like no one really wants her to have a tip line in the basement of the newspaper, press. I was gonna say shop, but press facility. But she's worked her way in, and she's determined to do right in the world. And you find out later in the movie what's that? Where did that passion come from? From a personal, snafu that happened. And so I just love that she's really dedicated to being not just a concierge, like she's obviously dedicated to the tip line, but when she's at the concierge, it's like that's maybe not what she wants to do, but she still puts her best foot forward. And then you see where her passion really comes out. She's a bit looser, she's a bit wackier, she's a bit more unfiltered, but still with the same passion. So she has passion for both. She's puts her best foot forward with both, but you really see where her heart lies, which is at the tip line.
Like I was doing that relationship between your character and Kristen character, like like Kristen trying to be like, oh, like I'm the detective, to stay out of it, you don't want to get hurt or whatever. And like, here you go, I found it out. People like, thank you, and then you just like tag along and wrap up.
Yeah. Yeah. The dynamic with Chris and I was quite fun. Um, he's such a serious guy on the surface, and then like I think he was similar to Detective Beeks in that he's a bit more reserved than me, and I think we're like mini versions of our characters from what I could tell, and that I'm not quite as wacky as Maddie, but I'm a version of that. And then Chris is not as serious as Beeks, but he's a version of that. But then he's such a lovely, like quirky guy when you crack his shell, which doesn't take long. Like, he's got a lot of, opinions about architecture and taste and decor, as do I. And he's really into like vinyl records. So that was really cool. We both love like landscape architecture. He has a Forerunner that's kind of like a van that I built like for the outdoors. And so he's just a great guy. He was a great teammate. He's very professional. So the fact that we're both trying to like establish this on-screen dynamic that feels organic, that it's like very clunky at the beginning, and then they obviously are teammates at the end, but not so much that they're like best friends. Like, it still has to have an organic trajectory. And Chris and I were both really committed to that. So I just appreciated having someone that was as eager and motivated as I was. We matched each other's energy in that sense. Yeah.
How about the movie? Were there any challenges? Because I know in the past that some of the actors and actresses walk through COVID where they have to be like in an enclosed space
Right.
and like prolong the filming or the schedule. So I'm not sure if you had experience with working the movie and then the COVID time or
Yeah.
challenging of the movie that is like, okay, this is not working. What can we do to make it better?
We didn't have any COVID restrictions, so we were
Okay.
okay. Yeah, we were good. I mean, they were pretty lenient, not lenient, but like I didn't feel any sort of like COVID presence there, as far as that goes. No, we were good.
Awesome. My favorite part was the Tipline Mysteries, the diet and for murder, and in I think it was the record store. Or, yeah, I think we were trying to find out information. And then he walked in and you're like, okay, never mind. I don't need you. I'll be right back. And then you like drop the phone to record everything. And he was like,
Yeah.
oh. And the quick comes in, started part. And then you came right back and I forgot my phone. I'm so sorry. You take a phone
Yeah.
and you walk out.
Yeah.
So they're like a baby, they're a part of the movie that was tough. Or like not emotion, but any part of the movie that you feel like it's gonna be tough or how do you prep for it.
Right, right. Well, to speak on the scene you're talking about, there's a scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off where he goes, it's when they're have you seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he goes, they have lunch and they walk out to the valet and he's on like the step and there's like a wraparound little like, 6 steps down where his dad's down there. And there's like a famous story where a parent supposedly Matthew Broderick's like, my character would see my dad. It doesn't matter. Like I don't want to do that. It's like that doesn't make sense. And John's like, trust me, it'll work. It'll work. And that's like one of the famous scenes of Ferris Bueller's Day Off is like, it's a little bit out of the imaginary world that is the actor, but it's a really fun scene for the viewer. And there's this like give and take of what is believable in the world. But that's okay. There's certain, I think, pitfalls where you go, that's okay, it's not believable in the world. Like would probably see me just like over here, 1 foot to the left. But for the dynamic of the scene, it really works. And so I thought of Ferris Bueller's Day Off when we blocked that because it is a really fun, like gumshoe crime buddy comedy feel. And so I liked that, like we got to add in one of those that's like not necessarily believable in the world for the actors or for the characters, but it's really quite fun to watch. And that is one of my favorite scenes with Ferris Bueller when he's like on the step and the way the camera moves and reveals it, and it all works through the camera, i.e. for the viewer. But as far as like the tough stuff, I think like towards the end, those were really big scenes we had to film for the time frame we had, with like the reveal of who the thief was. I won't ruin it for those who haven't seen it, but when you find who actually robs the jewelry store, those scenes were they were just very big scenes to get for the amount of time we had. So I would say that's probably the biggest. Jess and Cindy, the directors, and I, as of course, as well as Chris, like knew those were going to be very just, we have to get what we can get kind of thing in the time frame we had. There's whole thriller movies that take 3 months to do those kinds of scenes, and we had like 2 days. So what do you do in 2 days? Yeah, that was the biggest, I think, the biggest challenge. I think hopefully Jess would say the same thing. Yeah.
How long did it take you to film the Tipline Mystery movie? What was it like the filming time frame?
Yeah, I think it was either 17 days.
Wow.
16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. Maybe it was 19. I'd have to go back and check, to be honest. I don't remember the exact time, but I was there in Canada less than a month. It was a fast one. I've done some where like, I've had a couple Hallmarks where like they were a month and 5 days. This was less than a month. I was back home. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some movie 14 days and some movie longer. I should
Oh, I've
say,
never done a 14-dayer. That one's
yeah.
crazy.
I was like, I'm amazed that because I'm not an actor myself, I try to figure out like how the schedule work. Like I know they don't go from the beginning to the end. They do the middle, they do the beginning.
Oh
They
yeah.
how
Yeah.
does that framework the based on the
It's
being
not
based on the
chronological.
time.
Yeah. You shoot out of order almost always. I mean, yeah, almost always. This was, I would say, like, I think the biggest adjustment with Hallmark is and I'm one that doesn't really have a problem with memorizing. I would say that I don't know, it's just never been I've never noticed it being a problem. And this tested me. I was like, oh, okay, got a lot of dialogue. So I have a line runner. I have a guardian angel named Jessica, and she runs lines with me at night. And we have a very intense schedule that she works with me. And when the day is over, which on most Hallmark movies is 14 to 16 hours from door to door, usually on the 16 range. And then for an hour or two, we go over lines for the next day or especially on the weekends. So they're like 90-hour work weeks, I'd say. You're getting about 5 to 6 hours of sleep for a month when you're 1 or 2 on the call sheet. So that's a big adjustment. I on Teen Wolf I had like 6 lines a week, like or something, like a couple monologues. Like it was no big deal. And you've got 10 monologues in one day, easy. No, and then you get 8 the next day, So I never thought memorization, which is it's ultimately I can still handle it. It's fine. But it's on my radar now, put it that way. Yeah, it's definitely a part of the prep process. Yeah.
Yeah, but comparing from teamwork, like 10 lines an episode or whatever,
Yeah.
and then Hallmark movie, in for 80% of it.
Oh
So
yeah, I
in
would say 90.
different
Yeah.
actors, their cooperation, their strategy, their technique alone, or with the partner that they have been with, how to do proper. Because for me, if I was an actor, I'm not going to read the whole script and memorize the whole script just like that. I'm going to
You
memorize
have
what I
to.
need to memorize first, and then see what I need to prep for. I'm like, okay, we're doing this part today and focus on that. But I just can't imagine how much
Yeah.
time.
I have a post-it system that I use where I have different colors. I use the same skinny kind of translucent post-its with the tip of the color. And I have a certain system that I've always used for even for my other movies, I would use them where you can look at it's by week. So like blues week 1, yellow's week 2, and then I just repeat. And so you could say like, okay, week 2, and then I list the scene number at the top of the yellow. So again, we're shooting out of order. So I can look at all the yellows and know that's the week I'm working with. And usually I memorize by the week, but I try to get a good handle of it before we start for the whole, it's like a play. You're basically learning a play, 190 to 115 pages. In about a month. And most plays, you have longer to learn that of material. So that's how I equate it is like a play you might have 4 months to learn. Well, maybe like 6 weeks to learn it, and then you're performing it every, 5 nights a week for 3 months, 2.5. But with Hallmark, it's like just truncated. It is so yeah. So I'm glad that like I'm a professional actor, I'm able to handle it, but it was not on my even doing escape room. Like you had lines, you had scenes, but it's much more action involved. Most of my projects have been very choreographed physically, so to or emotion. Very little would happen a scene. It's more about the presence, your emotion, the connection to the other person, the action within the scene of a movement or thriller. But yeah, Hallmark is very exposition based, so that's definitely been not a transition necessarily, but just different muscle.
Were there any time in any movie that you like completely came this close but getting a line or to try like play it off at tour.
Uh,
I'm
I'm sure there's been a couple times. I'm sure. Yeah. Or, you know, sometimes it's you've got an 8-page scene and you're on your fourth setup of moving the camera and like your brain just kind of goes, you know, and it's like, ah, take it back, you know. I'm sure. I'm sure every actor does, but you try not to have those moments for sure. Yeah.
um
Yeah, you try not to have those moments because you don't have the time. Like if you have to start over, that's wasting a take, that's wasting time. So as an actor, you have to really not do that. Yeah, it's like part of the job kind of. And if you find yourself getting a little weak mentally, you have to like figure out why that's happening and you're like, get it together, clear the palette, let's do this, let me look it over, let's go. Like, yeah.
definitely. A couple of fun questions before we wrap it up. Is there anyone that you wish you don't mind working on a film that you haven't worked with?
Oh my gosh, wait, within the Hallmark world or in general or?
Hallmark could be anything in
Yeah.
the Hallmark world.
Oh, I mean, I haven't worked with most people in the Hallmark world, so I would love to work with anyone. I mean, Allison Sweeney, she directed me in a test for Days of Our Lives, I think 17 years ago. She directed the test and I didn't book it. It came down to like 3 or 4 of us, and she was really lovely when we directed the test. So that, of course, would be a nice, she won't remember this. I'll have to remind her of this moment because she was so deeply steeped in the Days of Our Lives world. But there was that. I work with some people that work with Andrew Walker and Nikki DeLoach sometimes. So I've heard such lovely stories of them. And we have the same production company called Timeless that does the Curious Caterers wheel. And so I have just through various connections. I don't think they know this, but if I ever meet them, it's like, oh, we have a lot of people in common. So I've heard lovely things about them. But yeah, I'm open to all of it, you know. The Lisa Schreier movies are so much fun. So yeah, there's a plethora of people. Okay, sorry, my friend's telling me bye.
That again. You have a favorite book or a favorite movie that you will read or watch countless of times and you will never get sick of it. It'll be like watch it or read it for the first time and it's surprise to you.
I love As Good as It Gets. That's the movie that I think is just the best. I love Jack Nicholson. So yeah, I love As Good as It Gets. Harold and Maude, I've always liked that movie from the 70s.
Yeah.
And then it's a quirky movie. And it was kind of like a first, like kind of Hal Ashby is an amazing director. I think he won an Oscar for editing and maybe directing. As far as a book, I love this book called Red Notice. It's about, I call them finance faux pas books, of real life inner workings of companies. So there's like a book called Flash Boys that I really liked, about high frequency trading and how that went really south. And then I loved Red Notice, which is about one of the only Americans and one of the few Westerners that was part of the privatizations after the Soviet Union fell in Russia. And it's a wild ride. And they're both true stories. So I love like nonfiction usually for books.
How did you come that question in? How did you come up or how did you get into the idea of your podcast, the Uncoupled podcast?
That one I had already done Holler Back Now, my Teen Wolf Rewatch podcast. And so there was a production company that approached, I think my manager was friends with some people at a production company, and they were starting a podcast department. And so they were just kicking around names. And then my, manager had mentioned Holler Back Now, and they liked the idea of, approaching this idea about breakups and breaking the stigma around breakups, and the fact that this person's on your social media platform and all of a sudden they disappear, and not a lot of it's addressed. And so there's just like we've become a society that, thank God, so much stigma has fallen by the wayside. There's conversations that we can now have through social media and the internet with support groups, or having open conversations. And for some reason, breakups still remains a stigma of shame, and something ending can be a bad thing. And so they had this idea of breaking that stigma, and I really liked their stance on it. So that's why we joined forces and did that.
So other than that, with the uncoupling podcast, with the breakup stuff, we try to like get them to open up and make them realize that not just one side and not just one perspective. There's more to it.
Yeah, and breakups are like a version of self-care. I mean, there's so many versions of a breakup, but the one common thread is the idea of prioritizing self-care, and a breakup is the best way to heal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all of the questions I've had. Happily, I appreciate it. So I'm going to turn over the last couple of minutes to do. If you have any comments or questions you want to ask me, ask away.
Ah, how long have you been a fan of Hallmark?
Say that again.
Oh yeah, yeah. How long have you
Oh,
been a fan of Hallmark?
a long time, a long time. I'm trying to recall a movie that made me get into it. I think it was, The Matchmaker Banter by Lacey Chabert and Adam Mayfield. I will watch that every year. I will never get sick of it. And there was one of Nikki's movies that was called Love Takes Flight, where she was the head of a hospital or something. And then I fell into the deep hole in Hallmark, and I watched a lot of Hallmark movies. Again, that's my escape and my self-care from work and of course COVID.
Yeah, yeah. What do you do for work?
I'm a deaf and hearing teacher for deaf kids at a public school.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Have they gotten into Hallmark as a result of you being into Hallmark?
Some of them, some of them.
Ah,
Some of them will put up with me so I have pictures of the people I met at the convention. You're like, how was the weekend? How was the dinner? No, Hallmark boyfriend. I'm like, no, it was a fun weekend. I met all my girlfriends again. So, yeah, I mean, they will watch some Hallmark movies.
yeah,
Some
yeah.
other students will be like, oh my God, my cat. Really? And yeah.
That's great. That's great. I love that. Yeah, I there's a lot of like genre conventions. So I know a little bit about that world, but I don't know if there's similar in the Hallmark world or not. I'm sure there's some overlap, but I'd be curious to see like the differences between like genre conventions and Hallmark conventions. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it depends. I have never gone to Comic Con or
Yeah.
90 Con. I have not. I did my first Christmas con last December at the volunteer. And
Hmm.
it was pretty good. I had a good experience with
Okay.
volunteering. I was able to get around and see my Hallmark stars again and my friends again. And I went to two drama events. They were pretty good. They're more intimate. And
Okay.
I feel like they're more worth the money and worth
Yeah.
going to compared to Christmas Con.
Christmas Con
It's
is almost like
just the
Comic Con,
money.
I hear. I've never been, but it's I always suggest, I'm like, sometimes at smaller conventions, they're like, I really want to go to San Diego Comic Con. I was like, it's an amusement park. It's not so much a personal experience. It's more for the spectacle. And that's just a different feel, totally.
Yeah, Christmas Con is like, okay, go, wild drama. Okay, ask me half the time. And
Yeah,
depending on the
absolutely.
stars and the person, they will take their time to connect with the band and everything. I mean, my first drama, I was nervous because I didn't know what to expect. Because it was my first band event or
Yeah,
convention. That was like, okay, let's see what the hype is about.
totally. Totally.
The
I
best
understand.
decision. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Meet and greets are my favorite. We call them meet and greets at like the genre conventions, where you sit down with maybe between like 5 and 15 people in a room. And it's always fun. My favorite thing is to just see why they like the show. Cause I mean, we all know, you know, we've dug into the details of the project. So my thing is like really seeing like, why do they like the project? Do they watch with a certain person? What is their life like? Like, what do they do for a living? Do they have pets? Like, it's really just understanding their world. And my favorite stories with Teen Wolf were always like, oh, I watch with a parent, I watch with a sibling. Oh, you're my savior during medical school, you know. And those were always like the big success stories for me that like really like just I was so happy that we were just like the you know, the like relief, the mental relief. And then it was always, you know, not more difficult for me, but it was always, I always like to know, you know, people that really needed the show to function and that really struggled. And we were almost like a therapist or a best friend, but then they would meet other friends through the fandom of Teen Wolf, and then it got them through the hard time. So then they were doing better as a result of the show. So it was interesting to see the role that Teen Wolf played in people's lives, whether that was, you know, more trivial, just easy going, or if it was really intense. But it was nice to see them on the other side of meeting people through this forum. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was really
hopefully someday down in the future you will be asked to more different events and get experience with different kinds of events rather than Epicon or 90s con, whatever event.
yeah, it's
I've seen
interesting.
some of it, but I'm not into it that much. I mean, I love the 80s and the 90s shows, but not
Yeah,
as much how much Hallmark had impacted me in my life, my personal, and I meet so many people through
right.
the Hallmark world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, my thing is like, I like my van. And so, you know, the people I've met on the road in my van, like those people mean so much to me, and they're lovely humans that I can call years later. And, you know, so I know like what it's like to like meet people throughout your like normal, usual life. And it is quite rewarding. So yeah, I relate in my own like world. I have that outlet as well. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, again, if there's no last minute question to comment, I just wanted to say thank you for
Thank
finding the time to come on the Cast Chat podcast.
Of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for checking out Tipline. We appreciate it.
I wish you for the best of luck on your upcoming project and your upcoming travel.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much. I
no
appreciate it.
problem.
Thank you.
Have a great day, Highland.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys.